that wonderful time of the evening again. Welcome to the Revelo show. Revelo is a unique expression of Eternal Glorious Fountain Ministries, also known as EGFM, presided over by the principal, Reverend Kaede Oyegoke. My name is Toby Lucas, and I'll be your host this evening. We have a very, very special guest for you. You're going to be extremely blessed. I know I will be. His name is Pastor Makama. He is the pastor of Jewel City Kingdom Community, also known as Jewel City Church, which is located in Gombe State of Nigeria. He's also a missionary of the Word of Righteousness in the northern regions of Nigeria. So without much further ado, welcome, Pastor Makama.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on this show, sir.
The pleasure is mine.
So it's your first time in Anamnesis.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about your experience so far?
Wow. My experience has been, it has been a time of refreshing, a time of reviving, and also a time of restoration. It's been one of my, I can call it one of my wonderful experience. Yes, it's been a wonderful experience.
Okay.
Yes. It was so refreshing because I have been, being in a field, being a pastor, but here you are among the brethren.
Right,
yes. And the words that were coming, it was so nourishing.
Right.
Yes, and the atmosphere of love, of brotherhood, and the teachings that were coming, it was really an awesome experience.
Okay, wonderful,
yes,
wonderful.
Yes.
And so before we go into too much depth, just so that the viewers and the listeners, online listeners, have a little bit about your background, could you tell us a bit about the beginnings of your Christian journey?
Okay. My Christian journey has been a conflicting one because I came from a Muslim background. My parents are still Muslims. But fortunately, I had relatives that were also Christians. So I was torn between the two without knowing which one to be. And, we keep hearing this one is the right way, this one is the right way. And some might tell you that all religions are the same. But in the course of my search, I realized that it's not actually, all religions are not the same.
Right.
So I went on a search. It was a personal journey. I believe there is God, so I prayed a prayer that, God, I know you exist. Can you please show me which one is the way? I left to me, I would pick the one I feel it's more admirable to me, because there is one that is more admirable to me, and one that I will do without conflicts. But in the course of my prayer, I was searching, reading stuff, Quran and Bible. Yes. It came to a point after a year and some months, I could not really have answers, because every other book tried to give you reason why you should be a believer of that faith.
Right, yeah.
But I had an experience. After a year, I was in a house, and there was a chronic, a serious brother of mine who is a Muslim. One time he's into all these incantations, yes, and that was how I even know there is real power in Islam. One time he was doing some incantations. Now I was in the room, and I was sleeping in the room, but I was overwhelmed by what he was doing, that even in my sleep, I was literally lifted up the bed. I was so frightened. I've never been this frightened. I was so scared, goose pimples all over. I had to leave the room in fear and now get to the parlor to sleep. I thought that was just done, because the next morning, I was so afraid I couldn't even talk to him. I thought that was done. The next day also, the same experience occurred, but in the course of it, in my sleep, I had myself mention the name of Jesus.
Right.
Yes. And all of a sudden, there's an appearance of light that brought comfort and now peace to my heart. It was an experience I can't really forget up till now. I remember, I feel that it also brought conviction in my heart. which I knew the Lord was trying to tell me, okay, Christ is real, and He is your deliverer. Prior to that night, I had an experience that I was terrified, that I don't know what to do. But this night, I had an encounter where someone appeared to me, and he brought such peace. And from then, the next morning was Sunday. I had to get to church quickly. I was so eager to just go to church and give my life to Christ Jesus. And it was one of the awesome moments in my life. I was all tears because of the presence that I felt from that moment he appeared. Yes, I understood the presence of God. For me, that is enough conviction that Christianity is the way.
And you said you came from a Muslim background.
Yes.
And how did your family respond to you being born again?
Okay, they were disappointed. Yes, they were so disappointed, and it affected some of my relationship with some of my Christian brothers and sisters. Yes, so they could not really express their displeasure fully to the extent that it can affect me, because there are some members of the families that are Christians. So, and that thing happened. I was in Lagos when that happened, so I was far away from home, and there was nothing much they could do against it. They could only talk. Why do you have to do that? What you're doing is wrong. And there were some threats, but I know they were just empty threats. The power of the conviction and the belief that I found a way is enough for me to face anything.
Right. Okay. I remember Reverend Kaide Oyegoke, he mentioned that you were in a church in Abuja for some time.
Yes.
What was your experience, in that church, prior to hearing the word of righteousness?
Okay. I was actually led to that church. It was a new creation church, pastored by an elderly man who has some balance in the new creation teaching. But I was an associate pastor in that church. Then I had even received the calling into the ministry, but I do not have a direction or where or how to go about with the ministry. That was the foundation of my service as a minister in a church. But still, having that teaching and that experience, still there was some level of discontentment, And, looking at the church, there were a lot of desire and interest. How can you build your ministry? We all had all this view. Oh, I would like to be like T.D. Jakes. I'd like to be like Chris or Eklome. I'd like to. So these are all the things that is left. And the concept and the understanding of ministry is just, how can I build my own ministry to become as big and as large as others?
Right. Okay, and then, but from Abuja, you then moved to Gombe. So you're having these, different kind of, heart kind of meditations of, how to, build a church. You probably seeing other ministers and thinking, okay, I want my church to perhaps look like this. But where did the connection, or where did the transition come from? Being in Abuja and then, thinking, okay, let me move to Gombe and start a church there.
I actually did not decide to move to Gombe.
Okay.
Let me put it this way: I was forced to. I was forced to move to Gombe. Gombe is actually a place where I came from, and it's a place where some of my siblings and families are mostly Muslims. So it has never been a place I had desire or interest to be or to do my ministry.
Okay.
Yes, there's this saying that a prophet has no honor in his own place, and also based on the conflict I was trying to avoid about family, and now I have to hide. Some of them did not really know the faith I'm practicing now.
Right.
But it actually came as a result of God's leading.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I had a leading to go and start a work in Gombe. I fought it, I resisted it, but it was so compelling that I lost interest about every other thing. I was so comfortable in Abuja. Yes, apart from the ministry, I was also doing my business. I was representing a private company, and there was comfort and luxury. I have a place, a house, everything
Right.
was okay. Yes, but the weight of the call to move and start could not give me peace. At some time, I felt I was choking out of the
Wow.
environment. Yeah, so I
Even
had
though
to
you're
quit.
in comfort.
Yes, I was very much in comfort. So I had to leave. I had to like tell even the place I was working with, the people I was working with, that I want to go and visit home. But I knew deep down in my heart, there is something beyond me that was compelling me
Right.
to leave. And so I had to obey. And how I knew I took the right step, because the moment I went, even though there was nothing, no comfort around, no support around, no friends around, but there was this overwhelming peace, yes, and fulfillment, yes. So that was how it happened, and it has been another journey from that point.
Okay, so let's talk about this other journey from that point.
Okay.
How did the church start? Could you perhaps give us a little bit of information on the humble beginnings of the church in Gombe?
All right. It didn't really start with a church, because at that time, it was during the time of this resurgence of this Boko Haram and some attacks, and being a Muslim or dominant state, that some of the churches were being closed even at that time, so it wasn't easy for us to just start our operation. So I actually got a place, and we started from my sitting room, from my parlor. I got some people. We started from just discipleship. I said, let's start about discipleship. But even at that point, one did not have the actual view of how the ministry should be. The journey also is informed by some of our my personal plans and my personal dreams, how I want the ministry to be, you know. So I had a foundation of new creation realities, and also I was thinking also, how can I make this ministry become acceptable, yes, and also attractive to people. So I began to think about some concept to do, or should I apply what this ministry is doing? What will I learn from this ministry? What will I copy? How will it impact my own ministry? This was just things that were coming. And that was the thing that I think, you know, you're trying this one and it's not working, and you're trying this one, and that's how.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, so you're saying that you started in, you know, just your house,
yes,
with a few people.
Yes.
But then you were trying to find direction.
Yeah.
So what was the actual turning point in terms of, you know, okay, this is where, you know, the church will go from here? Or could you give us
the actual turning point came when I encountered Eternal Glorious Fountain Ministry, EGFM. Yes, that experience brought about a total turning from the focus and the direction of the ministry. Yes, and it has been a wonderful experience. Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that encounter? Was it that you came to Lagos and you met either Reverend Helen, or was it Reverend Kaide that you met first? What was how did you connect to EGFM?
I believe that is a divine direction, because I did not send myself. I believe God called me. And even though I was doing some things on my own, God in His mercy made it possible for me to encounter Reverend Kaide Oegoke and Mommy Helen. I first met Reverend Helen.
Okay.
Yes, when I was invited for a program here in Lagos. So when I came, she was the speaker in the program, and I heard her. And when I heard her speak, it was something else. In my heart, I was like, God, this is it. This is what I love. And also, there was an opportunity for me to speak, though I just did some things. But after the meeting, we met, and from then, I don't know what really happened. It was divine. From that moment, Mommy just loved me. where are you from? I said, I'm from Gombe. Really? You came here? And for me, that's the first time I came in touch with what I say tangible love.
Right.
I just saw the love that was flowing through her, and
Wow.
that was the first an experience. And after that, I left. I went back. There is nothing much, but at least I knew I had met someone who I
Right.
could really rely on, but the relationship did not continue
Okay.
until I came 2 years after. I came for convention. I heard about the convention.
Right.
A friend invited me. It was all divine. I think that it's a way of God trying to link me to this ministry so that I can have direction.
Okay.
Yes, I came, and when I came for the program, I met Reverend, and when he just saw me, the first time we didn't meet, when he just saw me, he said, "You must be the person my wife has been talking about." And
He knew
it's not as
by
if,
the Spirit.
yes, by the Spirit. And I was so taken aback. How did this man, she didn't like formally introduce me to him, and he said, we'll talk. And he said some things there that I've never been with him, but that was when I knew he has a strong discerning spirit. He said some things about me that were actually true, and I was just wondering. So it even made me scared. I was so scared of even coming close to him, seeing him being the, the head of this huge, big ministry. It was an entirely different experience for me attending convention.
Right.
So attending convention changed everything about me.
Yeah.
The concept of ministry, the concept of Christianity, what it should be, and I think I went home after that convention a changed person.
Okay.
Yes. So when I went,
So can I just ask, you talked about, when you met Reverend Helen for the first time, there's so much love
Yes.
that was tangible. And then you saying that, you came to convention and those, experiences that you had. Was this like more, that tangibility? Is it something that you were seeing in what they were demonstrating? What was it that gave you such a strong conviction? How did you see, when you're saying that she showed so much love, was it like a lifestyle that you were seeing, or what was it that gave you that strong conviction?
I saw that one in my first encounter with her, but when I came to convention, I saw the magnitude and the weight of that love expressed among the entire members of the church. So it's not just her. There were 3 things I actually went home with after the
Okay.
convention. Number one, I had an encounter with the word of righteousness. It truly gave me a direction about God's present move
Yes.
in his church. It made me realize what Christ is actually doing presently in his church. And for anyone who truly wants to be a servant of Jesus Christ must align with what he is presently doing. So I had an encounter of the true, pure word of righteousness. Number 2, I also encountered the life of the word,
Right.
the expression. So the teachings were not something we used to. Initially, I know I had some encounter with some ministers where I received some knowledge or whatever. This one is not just an expression of knowledge. This one is not just revelation, but there is an expression of the life of the, yes. There was a life. As Christ will say, the word that I speak to you, they are spirit and they are life. The spirit of the word was present. The life of the message was expressive. Yes. So I could see it in them. And the third thing I had an encounter, or I encounter, is that love I first saw in Mommy Helen.
Yes.
I saw that love, that overwhelming love in her and Daddy. It was so tangible. It was, and it's not just them, it was overflowing to the environment. So it's like where you will wish to be, as in for life. Yes. I was even telling someone, I said, if I had not had a lead-in to do ministry somewhere, it had encountered this first, I don't think I would have desired to do ministry anywhere else.
Wow.
I would have been
Wow.
still here.
Yes.
So that was it.
Okay. And you mentioned that, you mentioned quite a few times that it was a divine leading,
Yes,
leading.
it
And
has to be.
oftentimes, with the divine leading, there must have been some kind of hunger that was already birthed in you. There's
There
something that you're looking
was.
for. Could you perhaps share with us some of the, hot conversations you may have had prior to meeting Reverend Helen and Reverend Kaede? Maybe there were questions that you were having about, Christianity, maybe the word, maybe those things that you're seeing or reading in scriptures that you weren't seeing tangibly in the church, that then ended up, the Spirit kind of moving upon it and leading you, to meeting them.
Yes, that's a very good question. Thank you. Being a Christian, especially the foundation where I encountered Christ, from the start point of my encounter, I wanted something real. And because of my sincere desire for something real, I think that was what brought about my encounter, which birthed the reality of Christ in my life. So from then, I always desired to see the reality and the tangibility of the Christian life or the Christian truth becoming expressive.
Right.
So now, especially some of the problems I had in the new creation realities, what I understand or what I learned is about believe the word of God, confess it, and you will become it. Now, I had issues with some of this concept and beliefs, because that made us we just open the Bible, and whatever we see,
Right.
we just believe that this is who we are. We are born again, yes. We are Christ, yes. We are like some of the scriptures, Psalms 82, where it says that ye are gods, and we begin to say, okay, we are gods. But then, this belief, you rather than seeing the God that you claim you are becoming expressive,
Yeah.
what you see there is the weaknesses of humanity and the
Right.
frailty of your flesh
Right.
being overwhelm you every other time. So there's a conflict, and you'll be wondering, is it because I don't have enough faith? And you can't say, you feel God is true. So God cannot lie. This thing he said about me is true.
Right.
But I'm not really seeing it.
The reality.
In my life. Then there's so much conflict inside of you, and you're wondering what is really happening. And so you don't want to say God is a liar. Right. And so you keep blaming yourself and acknowledging the fault, that it's because I'm not doing it right, or maybe I'm not confessing it right, or maybe I don't have enough faith. But then it says when you confess, So these are some of the difficulties I was having. What I was looking for that is real, I could not really see in the practice of the new creation realities. Yes. So it was not really.
Yes.
There was
this
struggle.
Is what you then found in the Word of Righteousness, and on meeting Reverend Helen and Reverend Kaede.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Meeting, this meeting, EGFM and the Word of Righteousness, brought a lot of light, revelation, and understanding of where what should be. This is where this what should be. This is where it should be. And one began to understand that the entirety of the of Christianity, it's a journey. It's something that you grow into. Yeah, there are promises that Jesus Christ will begin to understand and realize there are promises for taking, for believing by faith, but there is another thing that that we are supposed to come into, like growing into what we are desired to be. So I began to understand that the whole concept of Christianity, the doctrine of Christianity is not scattered. It's actually one.
Okay.
Yes.
I've been so blessed so far, but we're going to go on a short break. We'll be right back. Stay where you are. Welcome back to Revelo. I'm here with Pastor Medad S. Makama, who is the pastor of Jewel City Community Kingdom Church, which is also known as Jewel City Church in Gombe State. Did I get it right this time? I'm so sorry about the
No,
first
it's
time,
okay.
sir. Jewel City
okay.
Community...
Kingdom Community.
Okay, Jewel City Kingdom Community.
Yeah.
I got it right this time.
Yes.
I'm so sorry, sir.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
You were saying, before we went on the break,
Yeah.
you were saying that, you came to this conclusion of doctrine being one, and you're
Yes.
about to explain what you meant about that. So perhaps you'd like to continue.
Yes. The doctrine I'm talking about is I realized that there is one thing we are called all as Christians to aspire to, that is becoming like Christ. Yes. And for me, that is the central message that I understand EGFM preached. And the process through which it's not just this is what we're supposed to become, it's not just how we're supposed to become it by confession, but through the teaching of Christ, through the learning of Christ. And I saw what I saw is I was able to see not just the teaching, but the life of Christ becoming real.
Right.
Yes. So I can as well say I have seen Christ in expression in the life of Reverend and Mommy Helen.
Okay.
The life they preach is evident, is expressive. Yes. So to me, Christianity is no longer just a word that or a religion that we struggle with to do, but it's something we can actually become. So they become like an example, and it inspires you to say, okay, this thing is real. What the Bible preaches is truly real, because they are the evidence of the word that we see. For me,
Right.
yes.
And on going back to your church in Gombe, how did your members take this new message, well, the word of righteousness? It's not a popular one. It might be very new to them. How did they respond when you went back?
Oh, that's another turning point for the ministry and for the calling upon my life, because everything changed.
Okay.
Yes. I went back with this excitement and desire to also replicate what I saw.
Yes.
Yes, so I began to now introduce some of I went with a lot of tapes. Yes, I began to listen and I began to give to some of the ministers. Okay. And we begin to now learn some of these teachings of righteousness, and we begin to now, it became our message.
Right.
Yes, it became our message, but then it was not without a price, because initially we were this kind of church that is just trying to find acceptance and also trying to please. So we're trying to become everything as a church. We're just as a church that wants to be a healing church, a church that wants to be a prosperity church, a church that wants to be a new creation church, so we could find acceptance. But then after this encounter, it was narrowed to and streamlined to the word of righteousness. Yes. And like I said, it was not without a cost, because some people felt some of the human needs were neglected.
Right.
Like, yes, one of the things that is trending, especially in the northern area, that is making the church more popular is the issue of manifestation and encounter.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So initially that was also likely our focus, those encounters and those manifestations, and so
Prior to hearing the word of
yes, encounters and also new creation realities. But after this shift, which I believe it was divine, through the encounter of this ministry, EGFM, there was a shift and a change to focus on the word of righteousness. And so I had even issues with some of the ministers that directly fought me. Some left the church, and some members too, because they felt, okay, this ministry is not really like other ministries that is attending to either deliverance, The deliverance is one of the things that is really also popular there.
Right.
You know, yeah, demonic things. People love to see
Manifestation,
manifestations.
yes.
Yes, yes. So we begin to now major on the word of righteousness and the word of truth that will build us from within. But some people feel that it's not really attractive. So some left the church. Some of the people that were coming for prayers stopped coming because that was no longer our focus.
Right.
Yes. And some that also believe in the word stayed. So it really affected the ministry in that way. Yes. But we were able to now continue and persist even in the way that it was affected. And even in the community also. You know, some people when they left, they went and started saying things about us.
Wow.
They say they're doing something new, you know. And some other ministers also begin to now fight us, let me say, and say
Right.
some things, yes, against us. But we persisted because I am so convinced and we believe that we're doing the right thing.
Right.
So we continued. And after that, I think, after that year, I ensure that I bring some of the members to convention. So, yes,
Okay.
we had a discussion with Mommy. I told her I want some members to come, which the ministry supported. Yes, and Mommy supported, and we were able to come with a large number of
Right.
church members. Yes. So when we came, they had the experience I had,
Wow.
and it was really a transformative moment for them.
Right.
And also it also reaffirmed their belief and their
Their
faith
conviction,
in the
yes.
word of righteousness, in the preaching of the word of righteousness. So after that convention, when we went back, the church, the Edgewell City, became just another extension of EGFM.
GFM.
Because, yes, not just the teachings, but even the songs, you know,
Right.
and some of the culture of life and the practice, you know,
Yeah.
became the culture and the life and the practice of Jewel City Church.
And what would you attribute, you know, that thriving of the church? What would you attribute it to be? The fact that, you know, it's able to, you know, it's not that you've just gone to see, okay, this is how this church is doing. As you were mentioning before, the way that you were thinking about ministry, that, okay, let me look at a ministry and see if I can replicate it. But even without doing that, it seems as though you've been able to replicate what's happening here in Lagos. What would you attribute that to?
Okay, there's something about truth. Truth will always be true to a sincere heart.
Wow.
Yeah. So when those who truly are, because those that truly are sincere and looking for the right thing, when they encounter truth, they know that this is true. And there was a result of believing in such words and such teachings because it brought about transformation in lives. It brought victory over some weaknesses and sinfulness, you know, and it brought about strength and courage and the reality of the Christian word.
Right,
Yes, the
right.
word of faith became so real, so real.
So
Yes.
it sounds like it's a genuine transformation as
a
opposed
genuine-
to copying what one ministry is doing and then moving it to
Absolutely.
you know, Gombe.
Absolutely. So it's no longer trying to be popular or trying to be acceptable, but now, wow, this is what Christ is doing, and there's nothing better than to align with what Christ is doing.
Christ is doing.
Yes.
You mentioned that you're also a you know, you do outreach,
Yes.
you know, outside of Gombe, to the, you know, kind of
Neighboring states and local governments.
Could you tell us a little bit about that and, you know, what kind of, what, you know, caused you to, you know, kind of move out in that way in your ministry?
It's a desire to ensure that this word find expression not just in the city of Gombe, but even across the neighboring states. God had helped us to have some open doors in various states, some in like institutions and schools, yes. And so whenever we had such opportunity, our desire and our priority is to ensure that this word find expression.
Right.
And it is really gaining acceptance, and especially it's reflective in the last convention we held just last month. People across the bordering states converged in Gombe for our convention. We had Pastor Tope visit us. He was the guest minister.
Okay.
And it was an awesome experience.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
I remember hearing that, I think it's from 7 different states,
Yes.
people gathered.
Yes, there were people from Yobe, from Bauchi, from Adamawa, from Taraba, another person. There was some people that came from Mina also. It was really a wonderful moment. I was so amazed. It was God. It was God, and the meeting was awesome. It was just teaching, and you know, people that were thinking are just given to just manifestation and encounters. They sat down for hours hearing the word of righteousness, and the next day they were there also. The next day they were there till the end of the convention. Some of them left their various churches and came on Sunday, and the church was so filled, and it was
wonderful.
Awesome.
Okay,
Yeah.
I know you've shared with us some pictures of the journey.
Yeah.
So hopefully, viewers at home, you'll be able to see these slides as well. Okay, so the first one that I have here is the church's humble beginnings. I can see you here. You know, you're stood. It's almost like a derelict building.
Yes.
There's no ceilings, no paintwork, just brick. I don't think there's even windows here.
Yes.
So you're actually having church
in
this building.
Yes, that was where, up till now, we're still there.
Wow.
But it's that same place that you see, it has changed.
Okay, okay. Oh, wow.
It's the same
okay,
place.
I can see now. Here there's the, let's see. This was the outreach ministry. Okay, Believers Convention. So I actually see Pastor Topper in this picture.
Yes, it's the
I
same
don't know
place.
if that picture is showing right now. This place has really changed. You can see light. There's lights here. There's painting.
Yeah.
I think there's even, you know, there's curtains. This is wonderful. Okay. So I think the pictures you're seeing now are just Believers Convention pictures that the Believers Convention that just took place.
Yes, that just took place last month.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
And then today, Reverend mentioned that there's going to be a Believers Convention for Northeast.
Northeast, yes.
I'm sure
that was
the
great
church
news.
congregation is very excited about that.
Very. The entire church members, and it's going to be a wonderful time next year. The convention is we're going to have people from various states converge, and we're hoping and believing Reverend is going to be the host of that program, and I know it's going to be great.
It's going to be a wonderful time.
Yes.
I'm sure that there'll be ministers of the gospel, either watching or listening now, or maybe later, that may find themselves in the position that you were in prior to hearing the word of righteousness. And they may have their own congregation. It might be maybe 100-fold, 200, 300, and they're thinking, you know, if I now, you know, move the direction, maybe I'm going to lose all my church members, or maybe I'm going to face persecution. You know, what's going to become of me? You know, what would you advise a minister, you know, that's, you know, hearing now, or maybe later, that was in a similar position to you?
Well, for me, I would say it's better to find yourself doing what God has called you than doing your own thing. Because for me, this is mercy. Encountering EGFM, for me, is mercy that has shifted my direction to begin to look up to Christ and to begin to want to do what Jesus wants to do rather than my own plans. So one of the things that has happened to me was that I'm no longer given to doing my own thing or my own plans, or I don't even view or see the church as my own church or the number. So the issue, what word of righteousness will do to you is that it will take away those perspectives about building your own church or about your own empire. and it will focus your direction on Christ and what He wants to do. So for me, it even lifts the burden off you, and you just trust Him. So it's not about your reputation, it's not about the numbers, it's not about building your own thing. It's about doing what Christ is doing. It's about just being a vessel for Christ to do what He wants to do. And that makes the work so easy, and it makes it so fulfilling. The fulfillment does not come from how much number or how much grade. That is the worldly and the worldly mindset that we have. But the more you are becoming Christ, the more you're growing in the word of righteousness, becoming Christ, the more you're losing all these mindsets of the fallen life, trying to build your own pride, your own ego by virtue of the number or whatever.
Yes.
When you're growing in Christ, you don't care about acceptance. You don't care about pleasing people. You don't care about what people want. Your only concern is the greatest fear inside of you, am I doing what God really wants me to do? My greatest fear is, I hope I'm not doing my own thing. That is fearful. The more you're growing in the word of righteousness, you are even afraid to do your own thing. You're afraid to even draw glory to yourself.
Right.
Yes. All you want to do is to glorify Him. And that's so awesome and so fulfilling.
Yes. So it seems as though, your encounter with the word of righteousness has really redefined, the way that you view ministry.
My personal Christianity, yes, it's no longer about me.
Right.
It's about Him.
Right.
Yes, and that makes life so sweet.
Yeah.
Because it's no longer your life, it's about His life.
Right.
And that's when you begin to now have a taste or a foretaste of His life. And nothing matters than the experience of His life. Nothing is more fulfilling. Nothing you can have or attain or acquire that is as fulfilling as the experience of His manifest life through you. Yes.
Okay, so finally, I think this is going to be my last question.
Okay.
Where the church is located in Gombe, it's a very unique part of Nigeria, especially given that it's in a predominantly Muslim environment.
Northeast,
northeast. What do you think that positioning, the Lord would use that positioning of the church for? Do you believe there's something that the church there, that location, is the significance of it? Maybe perhaps you could share some.
I believe
light on that.
that church, Jewel City Church, the location is very strategic and significant.
Right, yeah.
In such a way that I don't just see it as a church, just church, but I see it as a gate that the Lord wants to use for the expression of the word of righteousness to reach or to penetrate the entire Northeast.
Wow.
So Jewel City Church is not just a community of believers, but I see it as a window that God wants to use to reach the entire Northeast. Yes.
And I'm going to
So
say amen to that. And
amen.
I'm sure everyone at home and viewers online will say amen as well. It's been wonderful having this conversation with you, sir.
The pleasure is mine.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. I've been so blessed. I'm afraid that's all we have time for. So we'll see you on the next show.